Before we begin, take a second to subscribe and join our community. Every story we share carries a lesson that could change the way you see people forever. Today's story might remind you never to judge someone by what they have. Everyone laughed when 12-year-old Chinedu walked through the village square wearing a faded school uniform with worn-out sandals that had been stitched together more times than anyone could count. But the laughter stopped the day the king stood before the entire village and called only one name, Chinedu. The small community of Umuoke was the kind of place where everybody knew everybody. News traveled faster than the wind, and so did gossip. Chinedu lived with his widowed mother in a tiny mud house at the edge of the village. Life had never been easy for them. His mother sold roasted corn by the roadside, earning just enough to keep food on the table. Chinedu helped her every evening after school before reading his books under the light of a small kerosene lamp. Many of the other children looked down on him. "Here comes the poor professor," they would laugh whenever they saw him carrying his old school bag. Even some adults shook their heads. "Dreams don't fill empty stomachs," they would whisper. Chinedu never argued. He simply smiled and kept walking. One Saturday morning, the entire village gathered for the annual cultural celebration. This year was special because the king himself was visiting after many years. The village square was decorated with colorful fabrics, dancers performed to the beat of talking drums, and everyone dressed in their finest clothes. Chinedu almost decided not to attend. His only shirt had a small tear near the shoulder. His mother gently held his hand. "My son," she said softly, "clean clothes are better than expensive clothes that carry pride." Those words stayed with him. When the king arrived, everyone rushed forward, hoping to be noticed. Wealthy families pushed to the front, proudly introducing their children. Local leaders spoke loudly, trying to impress the royal visitors. Then, something unexpected happened. The king raised his hand and asked for silence. "I am looking for a boy named Chinedu." The crowd became completely still. People looked around in confusion before all eyes landed on the quiet boy standing near the back. Even Chinedu looked surprised. He slowly stepped forward. The king smiled warmly. "Several months ago, I visited this village in simple clothing without telling anyone who I was." Murmurs spread through the crowd. "I was tired and hungry after my vehicle broke down outside the village." He paused before pointing gently at Chinedu. "This young boy shared his lunch with me without asking for anything in return. He even walked me to the nearest mechanic and refused the money I offered him." The villager stared in disbelief. The king reached into his bag and brought out a certificate. "I have established a scholarship for students with good character, and Chinedu will become its very first recipient. His education will be fully sponsored until university." Tears filled his mother's eyes. The same people who had laughed at him lowered their heads in shame. But Chinedu surprised everyone once again. Instead of celebrating their embarrassment, he thanked the king and quietly said, "My mother taught me that kindness should never depend on who is watching." For a long moment, nobody spoke. That day, the village didn't just witness a poor boy receive an opportunity. They discovered that true wealth had been living among them all along. Years later, whenever parents in Umuoke taught their children about kindness, they didn't talk about the richest family in the village. They spoke about the boy with patched sandals, whose good heart carried him farther than money ever could. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs the reminder that character will always outshine appearance. And don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring African stories that prove kindness is never wasted.